Today's podcast is presented by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. I recently joined as a member, and you can too. Apply today to become a member and immediately be connected with the advertisers that fit your audience. That's podgo.co at podgo.co.
And please put unprofessional development in the "How did you hear about Podgo?" That will give us a little finder's fee. Thank you.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a wild episode of Unprofessional Development. I'm Tudisco.
And I'm Mealey. I guess he wants to be famous, so we've got Mr. Hepworth with us. He works with Tudisco, and Tudisco is actually once a year he goes out and gets a guest. The other 51 weeks it's on me. So
my quota is done.
You're done till next year. You're good. All right.
That's right. If I get a second guest, I'm good for 2 years.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, so maybe that'll happen. I don't know. So welcome. How are you doing, Mr. Hepworth?
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay.
By the way, Tudisco, if I am your one guest out of the whole year, you're screwed.
Yeah, definitely.
The qualification is they have a pulse. The last guy he got wasn't even a teacher, so he's actually stepped up his game.
That's true.
Oh.
So let's start by we want you to explain your educational journey here. We want you to take us through your career, because it's taken some twists and turns, but rather than just list out your resume, I want you to explain it as a mixtape album with different tracks.
Mixtape album. First of all, tapes. I mean, who even has those anymore? But you certainly reminded me of like having a girlfriend way back in the day when, you kind of made the tape and you had the little sticker on it.
Yes.
And you customized it. So I'm going to do my first track.
Yes.
It's I Want to Be a Lifeguard. So you got to realize,
I love that song.
I know, I can't even tell you.
That's a song?
Yes. Hello, my name is Blotto.
I have no idea who sings it.
Blotto sings it.
I want to
be a lifeguard. Lifeguard.
Absolutely.
Something around my whistle around my neck, white stuff on my nose.
I love it. He knows this song.
It's by Blotto. I love Blotto. I love that one song by Blotto.
Blotto?
Yes. It was a huge MTV hit back in about like 80.
I feel like you guys are making this up and just tricking me.
No.
It's a very elaborate.
There's a link. There's now a link to the video in the show notes, boys and girls. So we will take care of that.
My whole career was always about being a lifeguard. As a matter of fact, up on Long Island where I lifeguarded at Jones Beach, I would say a good half to third of us were teachers or educators, because you know what it is? You get that summer bug in you. You're surfing, you're swimming, you're flirting, you're going out to the parties at night during the summer days, and you just want to keep that lifestyle. So you're 16, you're 17, you're 18. Next thing you know, you're graduating college and go, I don't want to give this up. So you know what? I better be an educator. I get my summers off automatically.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say, it all started off with that, which actually worked out pretty well. Because one of my kids ended up basically being born down at the beach. My wife ended up breaking her water at the beach, and I loved the beach so much. She broke her water. I drove her to the hospital, and then I left her and I went back to the beach.
Nice. That's my favorite episode of Baywatch.
Yeah, some of our guys down at the beach actually helped out in that Baywatch movie they made a few years ago. But
oh, wow.
Totally, I wanted to be a lifeguard, and that was all it was. And so I got into education, and I'm like, yeah, this is going to work. And lo and behold, I ended up doing it really well, and I just kept going with it. After that, I was working in a high school for a bit, and I said, you know what? I think middle school is going to be more for me, because I'm weird, I'm kooky, I'm crazy. I like to wear costumes to school. And I would come dressed up as whatever the topic was we were doing.
It doesn't go over so well with like 17-year-olds.
No, it didn't.
But middle schoolers, kind of over it.
Dressed as like Gregor Mendel with pea pods wrapped around your neck. They think you're like odd and strange. So I would probably go right there to like Crazy Train by Black Sabbath or Ozzy.
Nice. Yes.
But, my real favorite song of all time, though, is You Can't Always Get What You Want by the Stones.
There you go.
Yeah. Come on, one of you going to sing that for us?
Always get.
Okay.
I'm doing Miss You. I'm sorry.
Don't sing it. Never mind. you may be doing podcasts, but you're not vocalists.
Yes. No.
So, the Rolling Stones, you can't always get I was always looking for more. So here I was like, a great teacher, loving life. And then I just kept wanting more out of it and more out of it. And of course, what does that mean? The principal, the superintendent, they're always asking you to do more and more. And without going through my resume, basically I went from a teacher to a department lead to a chairperson to an assistant principal to a principal to an assistant superintendent. And you know what? It ended up being an awesome career. So, now in my second career down here, sitting back, relaxing, working with you, teaching again, it's nice. It's relaxing. I'll go to Guns N' Roses Patience for that one.
Nice. I was going to say, are you familiar with the Grateful Dead song, The Wheel?
The Wheel? I know the wheels on the bus go round and round, but I don't think that's quite the Grateful Dead.
There's a Grateful Dead song called The Wheel. Why can't you try just a little bit harder? Can't you give just a little bit more?
See, we're vocalists.
Yes.
I was going to say, that definitely sounded Gratefully Dead.
Thank you. Thank you. 13 times in 6 different states, baby. Okay. Yeah. What a long, strange trip it's been.
We know education is based around patience. So, I mean, I'm that guy who's always walking down the hall singing and whistling and humming a tune or something like that. So you name it, I'll start to sing it in the middle of the hall.
There you go.
So you were in New York where you did a lot of your other things. Did you officially retire from New York? Or
No, but I realized, you know what? I mean, talking about, working for all those years, my stress level at one point went through the roof because I think
Tudisco just wants to know, are you getting a check from New York?
I will say the pensions are nice there. When you compare, I mean, let's be real. A pension in New York is worth more than a full-time, hard-working teacher in most parts of the country.
Yeah.
It's sad what educators get paid.
Yeah.
And they should be paid tremendously more.
Yeah.
They solve the world's problems. They're doctors, they're nurses, they're psychologists, they're social workers. It's relentless what a teacher does, and sometimes doesn't get justified salary for it.
I'm sorry. So finish your thought though about whether you're retired, but you're not retired.
So, you know what? I really decided to come down here. We relocated in large part because of where my 3 children's ages were, and my eldest was about to hit high school. So we said we've wanted to move for many, many years, and we said this is now the right time to do it. So that way she's not switching high schools. And in doing so, I also started an educational consulting company, Opportunity with Learning, and most recently, I also am just now beta testing a platform called K12 Leaders that I'm starting with some guys up in the Boston area.
So you give it to Japanese fish. Is that how that works? That's really weird. I don't understand how that deals with education. But you know more about it than me.
Not that kind of beta.
Oh, not that kind of beta?
No, not that kind of beta. Nope. This is the simplistic testing on our web platform. But and that's what we're doing. We're seeing how it is. So, help people around the country be better in their job, and I'll see what I can do with it. So,
okay. So I'm going to ask you a question here. So you've been a teacher. How many years were you a principal?
Just one. I was a pilot school on Long Island, and it was an arts STEM high school. We had all these research kids that were coming in from, unfortunately, low-income schools.
Mm-hmm.
But we also had this arts program where we had dancers, artists, theater majors, and we were trying to put them all on one campus. And ultimately, the grant funding the STEM part did not last.
But you had other administrative jobs?
Yeah, I was a K12 STEM coordinator and AP for about 9 years, and assistant superintendent for about 4 years.
Wow. Okay, so almost to the tippity top. Okay. And so how does that help you? Because now you're a teacher, just a regular, just classroom teacher again, yes?
You got it.
So how does that help you, both knowing what you learned in those areas, as well as being able to help other classroom teachers navigate through some of the challenges? Because sometimes it's a supportive, cooperative thing, but many times it feels like an adversarial thing. Even, I'm guessing, sometimes even principal versus superintendent and teacher versus principal and all of that. You don't know what I do, and you're telling me stupid stuff that I can't do because you don't understand. What did you learn in all of those things, and how to kind of keep people understanding each other?
You know, it's interesting you say that because that adversarial role can play itself in so many different ways, even amongst teacher to teacher sometimes. You know, like I've got to be the better performing teacher. I've got to have higher end of the year results than you. You could have the adversarial role to the principal to your chairperson. And there have definitely been supervisors that I've had throughout my career that have definitely been not the easiest person to work with. And, you know, a lot of times it was more so, it was a threat. They saw you sometimes as a threat, as someone wanting to take their position.
Yeah.
But you know what was really interesting, I think, is I got into administration fairly young in my career. I would probably say it was around my 5th to 6th year when I got my administrative license and then became a chairperson. But the best part of all my career, even though I've been at more than 2 decades, you know, 24, 25 years, I taught in almost every single year of my career because great places I worked at afforded the teacher's contract the opportunity to say administrators were allowed to teach 1 to 2 classes, you know, in New York. But the reality is it afforded me the opportunity to genuinely understand the things as administrator that I was asking of staff to do because I had to do it myself.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things I always wanted to do as a chairperson, as assistant principal, as a coordinator, director of STEM was make the teacher's job easier. Because the reality is the teacher's role is the hardest role in the building. There is no doubt about it. Yeah. You are that chairperson. You're that principal. You can walk in your office and close the door. I mean, I guess technically you could do that as the teacher and just leave your kids out in the hall for 40 minutes. Yeah. But I don't know how well that will go.
I mean, are you okay with me showing a movie 3 days out of 5? And,
right.
You know?
Exactly right.
No, only gym teachers can do that.
Okay.
Well, they can also wear shorts. And
they can.
You know what? I remember saying to one of my good friends who retired after many years as a gym teacher and go, hey, don't hate me for making the right career decision.
Oh my God. I actually tweeted this out just yesterday. It's so funny, the whole thing. Teachers, when you tell them that next week we can wear jeans all week, they act like it's like that you just gave them like $1 million. But the rest of the time, no one ever comes to you and says, you know what? The kids, they really behaved today and learned, and my admin made great decisions today, and no helicopter parents emailed me. But these pants are driving me crazy. What a horrible day I had. Yeah, like, why? No day that you actually put on pants. Is it like, is that like the hard part of your day? Now that the jeans on, like all of a sudden it's easy to be a teacher. I'm like, why are you obsessed about jeans, teachers? It's okay.
I've had a theory for years since I was a teenager that my day gets exponentially worse the moment I put on pants. All right. Any day where I don't put on pants, where I can just stay in my PJs all day, that's wonderful. Like nothing bad happens. The moment I put on pants, that's when problems start.
You got pant trauma, okay? You got pant TSD, PTSD.
We're not going to ask you right now what you're wearing, so we're just going to leave it at that.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I put on pants right now because I'm ready to work.
There you go.
All right, AJ, I want to pick your brain for a second here. So, all right, I know what a teacher does throughout a day.
Yep.
I kind of understand what admin does. Like, I feel like if I had to, like, guess or take a test on what is a principal doing a day, I think I get, like, a 75. What the heck does a superintendent do?
Yeah.
A superintendent is a consumer affairs person. They are mitigating the social constructs that are going throughout the district. They are placating the board members.
Oh, okay.
They are diffusing fires from one school to another that competes data against them. I mean, they are really a manager that is also establishing policy. And that's one of the biggest things. I got to tell you, when you get a great superintendent, it's incredible. But there are a lot of superintendents that unfortunately are not leaders of education and instruction, curriculum, and assessment. They're managers. They're CEOs of a corporation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And by the way, let's not forget, there's a huge amount of personnel involved too. I remember one of my friends it was one of the professors when I was getting my doctorate. He was a superintendent on a North Shore district, And he's out playing golf with a bunch of his friends one day who are CEOs of companies earning, 7-figure salaries. And they're all talking about the size of their staff and the responsibilities and the budget. He goes, guys, just to let you know, I have a $400 million budget and thousands of persons working for me. And they looked at him. They had no idea.
Yeah.
There's a huge another role to the superintendency as well. So I happen to have been a superintendent that was in New York City for the school quality review office, where I had the luxury of traveling around to all 5 boroughs and visiting schools. And basically if the best way I could tell you was we were like a restaurant critic, but for schools. We sampled everything throughout the course of a few days and basically gave them a rating at the end of it. It was like an audit, but It was incredible. Incredible. You think about as a teacher, how you impact a few hundred lives. Think as a principal or building leader, you impact a few thousand lives. I had the opportunity to meet and reach a few 100,000 students.
So my question for you is then, I'm really curious. So I'm sure for a lot of times you got to see some really cool and some really neat things. So how quickly did you have to develop, for lack of a better word, like a BS detector for when and how often was it disgustingly obvious that it was a huge dog and pony show in there and you're just like, oh my God, what in the world is that lady has never put on that much makeup and worn those high heels ever. I can hear the screaming coming from down the hall, but yet she's guiding me into this room where everyone is just hands folded and looking so pleasant in here. Is that
the best was when, you're in a classroom and you're doing an observation and the kid says, but that's not what you said yesterday when we practiced this.
that literally happens, huh?
Right. So
if you ask the kids, they'll tell you.
Right.
You know what it is? You said, how do you navigate the role before? And with that same lens, it's, from a leadership role, you have to be fair. You have to be objective. But one of the things I constantly would remind teachers about is, realistically, are we really observing you or are we observing the kids learning? So to answer your question, I would always say you knew it because I spoke to the students in the class.
Mm-hmm.
You'd sit in the class, not necessarily in the far back corner. If you see a kid's absent, take the middle seat.
Right.
If you're in a lab class that the chairs are doubled up, sit next to a student.
Yeah.
Throughout the lesson, you're going to know if they're learning, if they're engaged, if they are really going through an opportunity to make them better, or if the teacher's trying to impress you with all that pedagogical jargon and buzzwords and, oh, look, I've got the standard written up on the wall. I mean, seriously, who cares if it says LB's 27C is written on the chalkboard by some task that a kid has to complete, as opposed to at the end of the class, a kid is ready to go home, sit down at the dinner table and say, hey, mom, dad, or whoever they live with, you know what I learned today? It was awesome. I bet you didn't know that. And if you did, let me tell it to you anyway.
Right.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
That's how you know if there's a dog and pony show.
Sadly, way too many people care about that. And sometimes it's the superintendents who then, when they care about it, they make the principal care about it. And because the principal cares about it, the teacher cares about it.
One of my old superintendents knew I always played music because I always did hands-on labs. And one day he's walking down the hall and he's listening and he hears the Back in Black album by AC/DC blasting in the background. And he's like, oh, I know AJ's teaching. And he walks down the hall and goes, I got to tell you, AJ, you're the only teacher I know I could ever walk into a classroom and hear AC/DC blasting while the kids are 100% engaged in their learning.
That's cool. That's cool. I did a workaround. I never had to fib, but I was prepared to fib. I wrote one standard on the board at the very beginning of the year, and I didn't change it ever. If they come in and they go, I looked up the standard you had on the board and that's what you were teaching. I go, oh, well, I forgot yesterday.
That goes back to what you guys said before about, again, navigating the role and what did you learn about having been administrator to a teacher? I learned your curriculum is one thing. Your instruction is another. Yeah. I mean, seriously, when you were an early teacher in your young years, there were teachers who would spend 12, 14 hours writing a lesson that only to be delivered in 40 minutes or a half an hour or maybe an hour and a half if you're in these block schedules. But reality is Were you focusing on what mattered? Being a better instructor, developing better questions, figuring ways to engage your students and have them do the work more.
Yeah.
That's what it came down to. So when, the role of an administrator really gave me the great opportunity to say, I know what matters.
Mm-hmm.
And if an administrator is going to come in my room, I'm still going to continue doing what I'm going to be doing.
And I hear, it's so funny because I hear this lady's voice in my head. It was my second year as a teacher. And it was something that made an impact on me that I still hear it, and I still make the mistake, and I have to correct myself. Her name was Marie Vrablik. She's just an awesome teacher. And so I was done with the day, and I didn't have any kids come to tutoring, and she was across the hall, and there were like 7 or 8 kids in there. And I said, well, do you mind? I said, let's get over here. If he needs help, can I help him? She's like, yeah, go over and help. And so I go over and help, and so he's got the problem. And so I go here, and I start showing him what to do. And she goes, put that pencil down. I go, what? She goes, you don't write, they write. She goes, even if you have to tell them what to write, they write. You don't ever write it, they write it. And I'm like, oh. The kid's gonna, even if I'm telling him write 2x minus 5, and he has no idea why he's writing 2x 5, something's happening in there versus me just, at minimum, he's at least got to be listening and paying attention and engaged on a different level. It's just like sometimes those little things that you hear and that you change, and then like someone says that to you and you're like, okay, I need to remember that like all the time. It's a huge difference in their engagement when you just have them little things that they're doing.
It's a complete huge difference. And, that's what I loved about doing a lab-based class environment. I would tell my students on day one, I said, hi, just to let you know, you will have no tests, no quizzes, and no homework in this class. And by the way, you don't need a notebook. And they're all start applauding. This is the best. Oh, you're my favorite teacher. Well, now let me, clarify that up a little bit. You will be doing hands-on labs every day that you will have to formally write. And of course, if you don't finish your work, then you got to complete it at home or at another time like that. But you're going to be doing the work in class.
Yeah.
Not me.
Right.
As a matter of fact, even the materials and supplies, I'm not laying them out for you, setting it up like you're playing Mousetrap the game, and all of a sudden you push the ball and the whole thing goes like a Rube Goldberg experiment.
Yeah.
You just slide back and forth, and next thing you know, you're done.
Yeah.
You're doing this work. Our role as a teacher is a complicated role. We are not just disseminators of content. As I said before, we are the psychologist, the social worker. I'll never forget in one of my early roles as a chairperson, basically where I was still teaching. So you got to imagine I'm in this district and I'm an administrator. So yes, you get to know the board members and I'm doing well. And next thing you know, one of the board members' kids gets transferred into my class.
Ooh.
Well, this particular child did not have the best hygiene, we'll say.
Oh boy. There we
Let's
go.
just put it this way. He smelled really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Badly. Horribly. And no one wanted to sit around him. I got to tell you, I had to pick up the phone and call his mother and explain to him, your son needs to start to shower. That's not an easy phone call to make. And I just said, nope, I'm going to take the menthol, rub it under my nose during this time when he's in my pocket. Just going to go ahead with instruction. But, there's a lot of that stuff that's about being a teacher. And we're raising a kid to be a contributing member of society, not just an expert in our content that we found interesting when we were younger.
Yeah, there's no Common Core standard for not smelling.
No, definitely not, especially in middle school.
Yes.
They quite haven't grasped the concept of deodorant fully yet.
No. And apparently their smelling sense is not fully developed, along with their frontal lobe or whatever. So it's the scientific term nose blind because they've just been smelling themselves, forever, so they don't notice. We need to talk about the beta testing thing that you're doing. So kind of like give us like the elevator pitch of what our listeners can expect if they want to be beta tested.
On K12leaders.com, we are establishing a platform where educational leaders can come together, collaborate, share ideas, publish, get mentorships, but with well-established leaders in public education across the country.
Okay.
There are social media networks out there. There are business, like your LinkedIn accounts and your Ed Week and whatever else is out there.
Edutopia, yeah.
Edutopia. But the question is, do these K-12 leaders have an opportunity, one, not to be judged on these websites, not to be slammed with advertisements on these, not to be hunted down and then their emails taken for spam. We are creating a platform where groups of people, for example, right here, unprofessional development, we could create a group or cohort of unprofessional development followers where they could collaborate and share ideas and understand what's best practices or what to do next. And it's free.
Okay.
But it's a platform for educators.
Right.
It's not a platform for everybody else. You logged on LinkedIn and it's like Facebook all over again, and all your high school friends are trying to connect with you. I'm like, listen, I didn't talk to you then. I don't know why you're reaching out to me now.
Okay.
We're really creating that opportunity for them.
So let me ask you two questions then. Okay, so number one, when I hear leaders, in my mind, I just automatically think admin, right? So as a teacher, if I logged onto K12leaders.com, what could I expect and what could I gain? And I guess my second question there is, like, as teachers, though, don't we have each other's email? Like, why would we need a platform?
Because first of all, the question is, do you have teachers' emails from across the country of people that you may not even know that are doing things? Secondly, you're right. Sometimes people do think of leaders as the admin. I always remember one of the great superintendents I worked for, he would always go into the same Starbucks, and this girl one day asked him, just like curious, I see you coming here every day early, get your cup. What do you do? And he's a superintendent earning phenomenal salary, well established. His reply was, I'm a teacher. The administrators, the leaders are teachers. And I hope they remember, we are all teachers first. But that being said, when I think of K-12 leaders, I think of the teachers, because the reality is great teachers become great leaders. That's often what we're seeking. We're seeking people to be able to share their knowledge and, empower others to do it. That's one of the reasons I became an administrator first off, because I kept having my supervisors ask me to take on more responsibilities and ultimately saying, you've got a wealth of knowledge to share or mentor. Why don't you share it and do it with others? Maybe you could be leading the professional development sessions. Maybe you should be giving the feedback to your colleagues on an observational process. So the curriculum you're writing and you're putting out there, maybe you could spearhead the curriculum initiatives. So the K-12 leaders is really for people in public education that view themselves as leaders that are looking to contribute to education.
So I've got some nuts and bolts. So is it like a set of like chat rooms? Is it arranged by topic? Like, are there people on there who are kind of like, we kind of throw the term around, edu celebrity sometimes? Are the people who are going to be like, they specifically work, or they're like, they
I will tell you, we do not have Nancy DeVos on there.
No? Okay.
So if that's who you're looking to.
All right, I'm done. Let's move on.
Fred Rogers?
But
the ghost of Fred Rogers?
That would be awesome. Who's a better educator? We need to bring him back. In our beta test version, we've literally only got 24 people on there, and that was very purposeful, because a lot of what we're looking to do is figure out the platform, what does work. So to your point, yes, we have the different chat rooms, we have the different groups and cohorts, and that is something that each time we kind of are beta testing it and getting people to sign up, we're taking that feedback. And anyone who listens to this and wants to sign on, please go ahead. All you need is a click of your LinkedIn account, and you're right in there. But that being said, we also want the feedback so we know we're meeting the needs of the audience.
Right.
So because we're trying to create it so that people say, you know what, listen, I'm in the food services industry. I don't care necessarily about the bus transportation or the after school or how you're dealing with COVID. I'm looking to deal with people that are dealing with the food services element.
Right.
Then there are your other people who are the curriculum specialists go, I want to know how you're dealing with this madness of remote learning. Let's share it. So we're trying to beta test how these conversations will be effective moving forward.
Okay. And is there anything where there's like videos that I could watch? So if I want to like watch like a video and someone kind of like an explainer video, or like
it's interesting you say that, because just last week with the partners that I have up in the Boston area that we're also establishing more from the tech side of this, they've created under each person's profile the opportunity to download very purposeful documents, videos, images, etc. So yes.
I can have it like as a leader, I can have a little portfolio on there as well. So if someone wanted to like connect with me and find out what I was about, then I can have that as well.
It could become K12leaders.com/unprofessional development. And next thing you know, that's where your fan base, and I do mean your fan base.
Yes.
The cult following of groupies that follow you guys, they could all go there and see, different elements of what it is that you're doing.
Okay, cool.
We are catering to a need.
And boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen,
all variations thereupon.
Yes. This is your chance to get in on the ground floor and establish yourself so that people come there and find you for this. So if you want to like kind of do that and take part in the developing and guiding what it can become, if you have a vision for what you think can happen, that's really easy for them to get on there and give you a lot of feedback and say, hey, I like what you've got, but what about this? Or you need you need a little more of this because
it's good, but it needs a sprinkle of paprika.
Yeah, exactly. What doesn't? Oh, that takes me back to when Ed Grimley had his own cartoon, and that I think was his potato salad. Paprika was the secret ingredient. And just obscure. I know. I'm making obscure references. Yes, many of you didn't even know who Ed Grimley is, nor that he had a cartoon, but I loved it. Okay?
I did not know that he had a cartoon.
He did. It was a Saturday morning cartoon for about a year. It was hysterical.
I do miss Saturday morning cartoons. I mean, personally, I was a big Pee Wee Herman fan.
Yes, he's fantastic.
Absolutely.
I forget who I saw like on Twitter, someone like this, something like that, and they're like, connect the dots, la 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 la. I'm like, I get that reference. So
I played that for my students this year when we were doing topographic profiling, and I would always sing that when they were doing that out. And of course, the other day we were doing simple machines, so I had to show that opening breakfast machine.
Yes,
Big Adventure.
Yes, that's fantastic. It's really impressive.
When he makes this big complicated breakfast and ultimately puts on Mr. T cereal, and then all he does is take one bite and everybody goes, well, that's it? After all that work?
Yes.
Wait, why are we making a podcast again?
Because we like to watch movies and yell about them.
They yell about directors, yell about the plot, yell about the acting, but they also talk a lot. But mostly Josh and Cassie yell about the movies.
Hey everybody, I'm Cassie.
And I'm Josh.
And we are the hosts of the brand new podcast, Josh and Cassie Yell About Movies.
Each week we're breaking down a different film and sharing our unique perspectives and holding nothing back.
And fair warning, this is a spoiler-heavy podcast, so yeah, just be aware of that, please.
Do we make jokes or is there anything else?
Gosh, I hope so. I have fun laughing at you.
Well, thanks. And we yell about movies, is that right?
That's right. We upload new episodes on Tuesdays, so hopefully we'll see you then.
Thanks for listening.
All right, AJ. So I'm curious. We've had this conversation. We seem to consistently have this conversation with teachers. I don't know what it is about our personalities that just draws us to workaholism. Mm-hmm. But teachers are like we can't stop. We keep going. And
unplug.
You've had more hats than a Hydra. So
wow.
Thank you. To coin a phrase. So, being a workaholic, has it worked for you? Would you?
I would have said more hats than Bartholomew, but that's okay.
Others? Who's Bartholomew?
The guy with Dr. 500
Seuss.
hats.
What?
This is the English teacher over here. Didn't you ever read Dr. Seuss?
Yeah, I know he's problematic with some things, but Bartholomew and his 500 hats. Yeah, and he had to take his hat off for the king, and every time he'd take off his hat, he would a new one would show up on his head, and it was fancier.
I don't know what we're talking about. I'm very confused.
Bartholomew and his 500 hats. You
know why that is? Because you have a full head of hair.
It's a literary classic.
Men, we know what it's like to have a lot of hats on our head because we need to keep that image.
Yes. Okay, back to the original question, Tudisco. Sorry.
So the workaholic,
Workaholic.
Oh, man. The first thing I'll say is I'm married to a saint. If it wasn't for my wife, there is no way I would have been able to do as much as I did. I mean, I got to be honest. When I was getting my doctorate, I was an absentee father for the better part of 3 years, including the birth of one of my children. It was like, great. I'm going back to class.
Wow.
Wait. For one child, you drove back to the beach, and for the other one, you drove back to class?
Yes. And wait, hold on a second.
Let's not forget you should win Father of the Year. I'm pretty sure.
Well, what was he going to do? Like walk in with a catcher's mitt? Like, what does the dad do exactly?
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, there are people there to take care of that. And who's going to take care of the beach while he's gone?
And that's one of the things about being a teacher versus administrator. I realized that, teachers are absolutely working day and night during the weekends. They are responding to emails in the middle of the night. And you know what? Teachers need a break.
Yes.
Burnout is real, especially if you're doing the same content, same curriculum year after year. I had a principal that I worked for many years ago. He was an institution in the district. And, I'll just call him for argument's sake, John Smith. And when he was getting ready to retire, we're all like, oh, no, you can't. Everybody's going to miss you and love you. And he turns around and goes, the day after I retire, what they're going to say? John Smith who?
Yes.
And you know what happened the day after he retired, they said?
John Smith who?
Exactly. So, being a workaholic, it's just something who I am and what I did. I'll never forget this time. I'm working for this district that is about an hour away from, maybe even 2 hours from my house when there was bad traffic. And it was a snowstorm where I am, but not there. And of course, my mother, Jewish guilt, my mother calls to speak with my wife at the time because she's home with one of the babies. And she goes, why are you home? And I go, well, there's a snowstorm here. She goes, but is there a snowstorm where your work is? I go, no. She goes, well, I'm disappointed.
No!
With that, it's like 11 o'clock. I get in the car. I spend 2.5 hours driving there only to show up.
Snow.
And about a half an hour later, they say, all right, we're closing for the day. And then I get back in the car for a 4-hour return trip.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So totally a workaholic.
Most people do the 30-minute commute for 6 hours of work. Not the other way around.
Yeah. Well, that's working. That's what it's like to work in the New York City tri-state area. There were many times that there were the concerts at school. There were the weekend performances of all the plays. I mean, how many times can I watch Little Mermaid Jr. over and over? And it just doesn't get better with each of the 5 shows. No. But nonetheless, you're there, you're encouraging, you're smiling. And my brothers would fill in for my kids' birthday parties with my wife. And I'm like, thanks, guys. At least we look alike. The photos won't tell much different.
There we go.
But, before Photoshop.
Right. But, speaking of being administrator at one of the school shows, I got to tell you a great story. Whenever you go to these shows, they always do like the 50-50 raffles running by the PTA.
Yep.
And of course, here I am and I'm like, administrator in charge. So I'm like, okay, here's my $20 and you put it in. And next thing you know, during the intermission, the PTA president gets up there and says, okay, well, we're going to announce the 50-50 raffle now. And it's like $1,200. So the winner gets $600. And, of course, everybody's wishing for it. And they call my name.
Nice.
And it's awesome. And I'm sitting there and with my wife right next to the superintendent and his wife in the middle of the theater. And I go up. And, of course, what does an administrator have to do?
Put that money back, baby.
Thank you. Put that back. It's really nice. I sit back. And beyond the fact that my wife is kicking me in the knee, like, really? Seriously? $600? That would have been nice. The superintendent whispers to me and goes, you're supposed to at least say, give me my 20 back and you can keep the rest.
See, I got the solution. Okay. And no one can go back. So next time that happens, if it ever happens again, you look at your wife and you go, I'm finally getting you that diamond that we never got when we got married and we're going out to dinner. And everyone goes, oh, good for you.
Wishful thinking on that. Yeah. Note to self, next time, just don't acknowledge when they call out your number. And we're going to go to the next ticket winner. Guess this person is in the bathroom or left.
Yes, that you could do that too. It was funny. I used to work a long time ago for a heating and air company. Well, actually, we made the ductwork for a heating and air company. So we were what was known, at least part of my job was, we were known as tin knockers. So you would take, that's what they called us. They were the tin knockers.
Like a British curse word.
Yes. Oh, yeah, tin knocker. Get out of here.
Hey, you tin knocker.
So we would make ductwork for other companies to install in warehouses and buildings and houses. But anyway, so at whatever time the bosses decided, because sometimes it depended on how much work we had to do. So we didn't have a definite time we were leaving it at the end of the day. They would kind of see what we had to do and what we had to do. Some days you left at 4 o'clock, some days you left at 6 o'clock. They normally had like a cutoff, but it kind of varied. And so the boss would come out to the floor because he was in an office doing whatever he did there, like what superintendents do. And he would just come out and he'd go, shut her down. And so as soon as he did, I put my hammer down. Now this guy that was next to me, he was like halfway through assembling a piece that might take like 5-7 minutes to put together, maybe 10 at best. So what is he going to do? he's going to finish that up. And I would look at him and I go, it'll be there in the morning. and like the next day,
he's going to Toy Story away.
The next day, doing it again. I'm like, it'll be there in the morning. It took about 3 or 4 months, and we ended up going out to dinner, a group of us. And he said, it took me a while, but you would say that every day, and then I would think about it. And then I would come back in the morning and I would look, and there was just more metal just sitting around to be banged together. There wasn't any less than there was the day before. He said, and so I started just putting my hammer down because, and that's the thing, like, teacher, there'll be stuff to grade in the morning. There will be the email that you're responding to at 11 o'clock at night. It'll be there in the morning. It really will be. If something happened and you were magically transported to a wonderful land, or you die in some tragic accident, either way, the next day, the school is not shutting down because you're not there, and they are not sending all the kids home because you didn't read that email.
John Smith, who?
Yes, they 100% will. So,
but that's what a workaholic does.
Yep. Yeah, and it's hard to break that.
When I was working in the largest bureaucracy in our country, the largest educational system in our country by far, and I used to have to write these public-facing reports that would be published online, 8-page reports following the school visits. We were told that you've got 14 days to get the reports done.
Yeah.
The average report was taking my office 18 to 20 days. I was at 6. So, of course, what does any bureaucracy say? Oh, well, instead of 14 days, we're going to up it to 21 days. Of course, then the office average became
23.
I think it was like 22 or 23. Yep.
Of course.
I held 6 or 6.5 days. It's just who I am, what I had to do.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't change who you are. Yeah. But sometimes you have to tell that. There was one that I've heard a long time ago. Not a long time, relatively recent, sorry. I don't know when I heard it sometime. Who cares? Anyway, they said the posting for your job will be posted before your obituary.
It's interesting. Remember I told you when I started this off, it was all about lifeguarding. And I lifeguarded at the beaches for well over 2 decades. And, which is, by the way, it's nice because that's also a part of the pension system. But
nice.
That's a whole other story. So lifeguarding contributes to that. Every year you have to take a rehire test. Mm-hmm. And you had to beat very easy time. It was a 119.9 for 100 free. And of course, everybody gets in shape and you get ready on the starting block. You're like, I'm going to ace this time. And you get some guys doing in the 40s, some guys doing the low 50s. I always had to make sure I broke a minute. But one year, a guy goes to me, you know what they call a lifeguard who does a 53.2?
A lifeguard?
You know what they call a lifeguard who does a 119.9?
Yes, a lifeguard.
A lifeguard.
A lifeguard. To your point, it's the same with the workaholic. We're going to get it done one way or another. But what did you sacrifice along that journey? And that's kind of what brought me back to this classroom. And that's why I decided to do a little bit more education consulting. I started my own firm a few years ago, Opportunity with Learning. And it's nice when I have an opportunity to go out there and take a break to help other educational leaders find the opportunities to leverage the change that they want to leverage. For their improvement, whether that's through administrative mentorship, whether it's through helping coach a teacher, whether it's through helping them pass a budget through communication with the public, whatever it is, those are opportunities that I'm glad to be able to have more of an opportunity to do now as well.
Yeah. And I think it's good if you can find that balance. And there's seasons where it's okay. For those of you out there that are feeling guilty now because you're working like crazy and you're working 60, it's okay if it's for a season. Just try to figure out how not to make it every week, every month, every year, because it will. It wears on you and you'll look back and you won't be completely happy with what you did. You have to find that balance and go, okay, there's just gonna have to be a week where my lessons are, the kids will still know I love them. We'll still have a great time. We'll still learn. And then next week I'll have something that's, fun and spectacular for them. Figure out a way not to do as many things that need grades so you're not grading as much. Turn the email off. Take care of yourself. When you start thinking like, oh my goodness, I'll never get this stuff done. Guess what? Every year, come the last day of school, everything's done every time.
Yep.
It always is. So apparently there isn't that much to do.
Maybe it means you had to just make up an assignment and give every kid a 100 on it.
Maybe you
and
did.
That's okay.
You took those essays you took those essays and you threw them in the trash, right?
Definitely something that took me. I can honestly say at this point, even after 2.5 decades, I've taken enough sick days to fit on one hand in my entire career.
Wow. Okay.
And I used to remember when some of my staff would say, "Oh, I'm going to be out tomorrow," or "I need to take my father to the doctor's office." I'm like, "I can't believe you're doing this." And I look back and going, that's when I was a young administrator. And you realize, when you say, by the way, before, what is some of the learning? Some of the learning is to have compassion, to have empathy, to understand that this is a job. Mm-hmm. Now, we love our job and we do our job with every bit of energy we have. But at the end of the day, it's still a job and family matters. And you have to have a life outside of the school too. And I think that's something that coming down here and relocating with my family has really given me the opportunity to recognize, to slow down a little bit, to embrace being with my wife and family on weekends and at nights, and not just living only for the school and the job.
And I'm a sarcastic goofball. When I worked at that tin knocker job, my wife was pregnant with her second child.
You bloody tin knockers!
Yes.
Sorry.
And it was time for the sonogram where you find out if it's going to be a boy or a girl. I said the appointment's at 2:00, so I'm going to be leaving here at 1:00 to go with my wife to go to the sonogram to find out if we're having a girl or a boy. And he says to me, "Couldn't she just call you and tell you what it is?" I look right back at him and I says, "Why would she call me? I'm going to be standing right next to her. That would make no sense." And then I just walked away. He didn't know what to do with that. He had no answer for that.
I had a coworker once who their dog passed away.
Yeah.
Their dog passed away. And so they said, "I need to take tomorrow off. My dog just died." And the admin said, "Sorry, I can't approve that because on paper it says that the approval only has to go through for an immediate family member." And I'm like, that's what kind of state are you like? Even if they show up, what are they going to do?
Right.
They're going to put on a movie and say, like, "I'm not teaching today," because they're not in the right mindset. Right. They can't care about other people because they're dealing with something. Like, who does that help?
I never liked bereavement day designations on contracts. Like, you can't tell me who matters in my life.
Yeah.
There are people that are closer to their next door neighbor than their own sibling or parent for whatever reason. So and absolutely true.
And the one, like, oh, people will abuse it. Guess what? People are going to abuse it anyway, and they'll just lie about who died. So all you're doing is making someone lie by making it harder. That's all you're doing. Or you're ruining the day of someone like that who doesn't want to lie. I did this with like a kid. He's like, "Can I call my mom?" I'm like, "Ask me if you can go to the bathroom." I don't have to go to the bathroom. And now I just let them go. This is like kind of the beginning. The cell phone policy was really, really strict, and I wasn't allowed to like let them call. It's like, well, I just want to call my mom. So ask me if you can go to the bathroom. Can I go to the bathroom? Yes. Go, get out of here. He had to call his mom about who knows what. That was like.
And that goes back to, again, the foundation of what we do as teachers and administrators in schools. We are trying to create people that, as I said before, are positive, contributing members of society. We do not want people lying. So why would we create structures and a system that foster lying? Let's just get right to the point and be honest about it.
Right.
Be fair, be open, be honest, be transparent, be objective.
Yeah, and I always go back to it was a great guy we had on this teacher. Speaking of jolly old England, the name of the podcast, the episode is Crap Headteacher, and he is so good. And he's like, when you tell them they can take the afternoon off to go handle some personal business that's urgent to them, and you don't give them a hard time about it or have them fill out some goofy form and just go, see you later. We'll have someone sit in your class for, an hour and nothing else needs to be done about it. That teacher will give you like triple those amount of hours or 10 times that amount of hours back because they didn't have to jump through hoops to go pick up their mom at the airport that one day, and don't have to lie to you because I didn't get to pick when the flights were. The flight happened to show up an hour before we, are getting out of school. So I'm just going to take an hour off,
Every time I ran a professional development session, I used to always make it something that mattered, because if you had a professional development, I mean, we all know what it's like. It's the end of a long day. Now let's all sit in the library media center, or even worse, in the cafeteria on those little plastic round stools that only support one of your cheeks.
Yes.
And now sit in this, tight, uncomfortable environment for an hour and a half, listen to somebody. No, let's make it real. Let's make it practical. Let's make it worthwhile for our staff. Otherwise, half the people are on their cell phone. Half the people are coming up with an excuse why they need to leave. Same thing. We've got to make it always matter.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And to admin out there, it's way easier to find somebody to cover that classroom for a day than to replace that teacher when they leave.
Exactly. That is so true. You could sit in their classroom for an hour instead of having to interview 10 people to find someone the next year to take their place that you know does the job that they do.
That was one of my favorite things about being an administrator, or even as a teacher early on when you were on interview committees, knowing that you were hiring the right people to be a part of your school culture. That was awesome. Because when you brought in the right person that you knew that was going to be a part of this family, because how many schools are like a family?
Right.
I still, from my wedding, two of my best men outside of my brothers were teachers that I met and worked with for several years. And it really is. It's when you get the right person and the right people and the right team, it is awesome.
Yes.
Sunday. June 27th, join us for EduPodlooza.
There will be over a dozen EduPodcasters.
Listen for some rhythm and rhyme.
That's a poetry slam, boys and girls.
Roundtable discussion.
Just some teachers talking about teaching and laughing and having a good time.
Role-playing games.
Oh, yeah. For you nerds out there, you're going to like that stuff.
Radio drama.
Dum, 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 dum. Ah!
And really funny people.
At least really funny looking, if nothing else. 1 to 9 on June 27th, Eastern Standard Time. We'll be live streaming. There'll be links. We'll put it on the Twitter. We'll make sure that you know where it is. Follow us at Unprocast if you're not already, because that's probably going to be the easiest way to know when it's going live.
June 27th. Free up your calendar now.
Thank you.
But we've already heard a lot of funny stories from the classroom.
Didn't we all want to write? Didn't every teacher say we're going to write a book of all the absurd things we've ever heard?
Yes.
I really want to know if anyone actually ever record. You know what? Maybe that should be a super cohort on K12 leaders.
Yeah.
But
we have one. Our episode with Matthew Bates. It's a really, really early episode. I don't know. It's probably in the single digits. And he wrote a book, and I forget what the name of his book was.
But there's a link in the show notes.
There's a link in the show notes.
I will say that name goes perfect for the humor aspect.
It does. It does. Matthew Bates. Yeah. So thank you, his Matthew Bates' parents, for naming him that.
So one of my favorite stories was. So we're doing microscopes, and I tell them, I should say this. We're learning about the respiratory system.
What grade is this?
This was in middle school. I loved middle school. I would say of the 18 years that I've taught or something like that, where even if it's just been one class, I'd say about 13 of them have been middle school, 5 about high school. But so we're doing the respiratory system, and every single time, as I told you, I did labs. So we would be doing dissections of lungs, and we would have the lung activities with the balloons and stuff. But I also always, with every single lab, always have a microscope center. And in this particular case, I tell the kids the day before, you're going to love it. You're going to get to see some lung cancer.
That's what I've been looking forward to. Yep.
The prepared microscope slides. So the next day, this one particular girl who's in my class is absent. So she comes back in the following day, and I go, where were you yesterday? We missed you for the lab activity. She goes, I told my mom that we were going to be seeing slides of lung cancer, and she said I can't go to school because she doesn't want me to get cancer.
Nice.
So,
yes.
I started to probe a little. I'm sorry, I don't understand. What do you mean? She goes, you said we're going to be looking at slides of cancer. My mom said she doesn't want me to get cancer. I had to make a phone call home explaining that these were prepared slides.
Yes. Could be. So I went to
not make this up. I mean,
So this is why we need education.
I am not only teaching this child in front of me, but I am also teaching this parent that's at home as well.
Yes.
On a phone call about how this works.
This parent who votes
and
helps choose presidents.
Yes.
After school budgets.
So his name was Keith Vernon. Are you out there, Keith Vernon? Huh? We were in 10th grade together. I went to a private school, and the way my school district set it up, you got on a local bus at your bus stop, and it took you to a central location, which was, I think, the area middle school, and then you would get on another bus that was specific to your private school. So all the kids would come to the middle school, then all the ones that were going to my private school would get on the bus together, and we'd go. So we're sitting on there, I'm sitting with a bunch of knucklehead boys, and they're talking about this girl that was on the previous bus that they were on. And so the one kid's like, yeah, she has pink eye. And everyone's like, yeah, it's really contagious. And Keith goes, yeah, that's why I didn't look at her.
Oh,
I mean, it's contagious. Eyes, you look at, of course I would tell you would get the pink eye. You would look at someone else's eye. I've got it. Don't look at someone with pink eye. Yes.
It's pink eye, not Medusa eye.
Yes. He was serious as a heart attack. He really,
But he didn't get pink eye.
He didn't get pink eye. The fool. Well, that's like my other friend that I worked at one of the tin knocker places. Hello, tin knocker. But, he had heard that, like, it's dangerous during, lightning storms. If the lightning hits your house, it can fry your TV.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, that's why I took the cord and I tied it in a knot before I plugged it in.
Because that'll catch the lightning. It'll get stuck.
Yeah, it can't get to the TV. I'm like, what?
Really, the kid never had headphones before.
Same guy talking about getting baptized, right? And he says, well, I don't want to be baptized in one of those baptismal pools. He goes, I want to be baptized in a river. I'm like, oh, really? Why? And he goes, well, in the baptismal pool, I have to get in there with all the other sins that have been washed off the other people.
Wow. Do you think there's like a Great Pacific Sin Pact where like all the sins from the rivers have run off into
I mean, it's why it's the muddy Mississippi, right?
Caught in a gyre.
Pollution's going on. All people getting baptized upstream, and it's the sins washing down to the Gulf. Yeah.
I had a friend named Jessie in high school. She was not super bright. She thought like Neapolitan was the branch of government in England.
Yes.
And my friend Chris had like they were at like I don't know some kind of sort of fair or festival or something, and he got a balloon and he just let it go and released it. And one of my buddies goes, "You can't just release a balloon like that. You're gonna like kill a dolphin." And Jessie goes, "Dolphins don't fly."
That's true. That's true.
Just yesterday, I think we were talking about forests and we were doing something, and one of the kids said, "But didn't we plant all those trees there?"
Oh.
I go, wait a minute, just for clarity, you thought humans planted every tree in the forest? Yes. I go, I have not been doing a good job in teaching.
Who planted them then? Aliens? Well, of course humans planted them. What are you thinking? Alrighty. Well, boys and girls, we just thank you so much for tuning in. And Mr. Hepworth, thank you so much for coming. We just had a really, really good time. And please check out K12leaders.com. Thank you for being someone else that Tudisco has to work with now so that I don't have to, and keeping him on the straight and narrow as best you can. And is there anything else you wanted to share with us before we call it done?
No, I'm just going to head over to the library to take out Bartholomew's hats, to make sure our colleague here
yes,
has some understanding as an English connoisseur what it is that some of this high-level, rigorous reading that we've engaged in.
But yes.
Guys, I appreciate it, and I look forward to work with you guys and maybe hopefully seeing you on K12 Leaders.
Yeah.
If there's anything else that
after we get off the air, we'll negotiate our contract. Okay.
That's right. Hence the free cost of it all.
Yeah. Free to who? Just everything that's free is not free to everybody, just so you know, boys and girls.
Freedom isn't free.
Freedom isn't free. It isn't free.
We'll have our people call your people.
Yes.
By that I mean my fiance will text your wife.
Yes, that works.
Sounds awesome, guys.
All right. As we say at the end all the time, guys, stay unprofessional.
Thanks for listening, Unprofessionals. Please check the show notes for more information about our guests and just funny links for other things.